What's up, guys? It's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Betrayed, part 6. Let's try to hit 300 or 400 likes. That'd be absolutely amazing. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or the first link in the description, or the first link in the below, or the first link in the comment section, or the first link in the premiere. And once again, donations are gladly accepted. Thank you to one of the main dudes who hit me with a $10 dono in the last premiere. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the 10. I really do appreciate that. And without further ado, let's go and thank my balance breakers or Juggernaut Drive members. We're Anthony Lewis, Cool Ninja 12, Dark Phoenix, and Lachlan Yates. And then on to my balance breakers: Ziki 2000, Ooga Booga Ooga, Seraphal Leviathan, Night Ammo, Scott Clowry, Rob the King, and Native Darkwolf. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And by the way, What If Issei Was Deceived Part 8 has been released on Patreon. So, if you want to become a Patreon member and see some exclusive content, go ahead and do that. So, let's go ahead and list my members: Smells Noise, Lachlan Yates, God Killer, Elton, Mark Bacon, Jake Truly 2, and Logan Kolar. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into Part 6 of What If Issei Was Betrayed. Chapter 8. True to her word, Minerva did not spike the food, though in the morning she was wishing she did. "What's got you so agitated?" Issei said. He was getting dressed, only to having black pants on. "Your sisters, or at least one of them," as she paced back and forth. "Oh, remembering that Lilith did not like Minerva for taking up time with him. Guess I spoiled her a little too much, huh?" Issei thought in his head. "You think?" Minerva replied. "At least Invigold is baking them cookies to keep them occupied," Issei said. "Please, she'll sit in your lap and you'll eat them," Minerva says. "Well," as he zipped up his black jacket and the red stitching flame designs, "you two are going to have to get along." "Why is that?" Minerva replied. "Because at some point she will come and live with us, of course, when it's safe and clear." "You mean when the factions know where you are and leave you alone? Honestly, I can't believe you trust that guy," Minerva says. "Hey, it's been a year and there have been no problems," Issei said. "But how long will you hold up at this end of the how long will he hold up his end of the bargain?" Minerva said. "Good point," Issei replied as he walked to the wall and picked one of Ascalon's. "I thought we were just visiting," Minerva replied. "You never know. And besides, I need to get back into using my swords, otherwise she will get mad at me." "Ah, first wife, or darling, as you would call her, since you named her that in your phone," Minerva says. "Hey, she is my darling, and you are my goddess, and Invigold is my princess." "Thought she was your guardian angel," Minerva replied. "That too," as he took another Ascalon off the wall. "All right, I'm going to need you to wake up, partner." "So we're going to be using these again. May I ask why?" Drake says, as the boosted gear activated. "While I enjoy still getting up and close and personal, I am able to use Flame Blaze for defensive purposes. I still like to get back into using them and keep a little distance between me and the enemy. Besides, I can use some range attacks with these, since I can use my stasis." "I guess you're right. Now grab a handle," Drake says, as another boost gear activated on Issei's right arm. Issei did just prepare himself, willing the Ascalons to join once again. "Assimilate," Drake says, as Ascalons glowed before themselves in the boosted gear-covered arms. "Now, blade!" And the blades emerged from each arm, as he admired the red tint of the blades, plus the runes along the blades. "Nice." Retracting the blades and deactivating his sacred gear. "Minerva, can you place this one in a pocket dimension?" Pointing to the last Ascalon. "Sure, but what do you want me to do with it?" Doing as her beloved asked, teleporting the sword in her personal pocket dimension. "I want to see if I can upgrade it and mold it into a longsword," Issei says. "I see. I'm going to get ready unless you'd like to join me in the shower," as he headed towards the bathroom. "Not this time. Also, we need to get some wine for Yakuza-san," as he was heading out of the room, but he knew that Minerva heard him as she nodded her head before closing the bathroom door. Heading downstairs, he found Invigold in the kitchen reading a book while keeping track of the oven. "Hey, Invigold, how are the cookies coming along?" Issei said. "Yes, they're fine now. Nothing out of the ordinary." "Yeah, we are definitely spoiling them with treats, and I've dealt with enough spoiled children," Issei said. "Oh, sorry, would you like me to?" "No, bring the cookies. After all, this is a surprise visit, so they probably won't be expecting us. I may even get some work. I may have to do some work," Issei says. "You mean fight?" "When you put it like that, yes. Can't stay rusty. These creatures seem to be staying in abandoned Chaos Brigade outposts. We still have the lead on where they're coming from, or possibly who is making them," Issei says. I see. Should Minerva and I prepare for battle? No, you two enjoy the vacation. I'll only scout for a small number of enemies, but if you want to do some training yourself, you can pack your knives and anything else you may use for a battle. Or ask Minerva to store it in her pocket dimension. I already have simulated Ascalon into the boosted gear. Okay, I'll do that after the cookies are ready, Miguel says. Alright, I need to see if we have wine to give Yakuza-san. Maybe her ease a little with all the necrophants running amok. As headed towards the wine display that was in the dining room. He scanned the wall for wine in Minerva's collection. Since he didn't really drink, neither did Invigold, but Minerva was able to since drinking age in Japan was 20. He also had it for when his parents came to visit. He could not drink until next spring, and he was fine with that as he had seen alcohol makes people do. He grabbed a bottle that he knew Minerva and his parents seemed to like. I'm not reading. Rothschild, the alcohol. This should do. As he closed the glass panel, concealing the remaining wine, he exited the dining room as Invigold was reading her book. She looked so sincere. He figured that Minerva was still getting ready, so he wasn't going to bother her. Suddenly, the oven timer went off, and Invigold set down her book. Went to put the oven mints and opened up the oven to pull the tray of cookies out. Issei simply watched her work, knowing she had learned from his mother and Minerva. Looks like they turned out good, Issei said as he watched her set them on the stove and turn them off. Thank you. Could you get some Ziploc bags so I can pack them, Invigold says. Sure, but instead of getting plastic bags, he got plastic containers. Here, this would be better. Thanks, Invigold says, taking the plastic containers and setting them on the counter next to the stove, opening them to start placing the cookies inside. You must have been up early to start making so many cookies, Issei said. Considering how much they eat, I figured it would be best to make a lot, Invigold says. She continued to pack the cookies away. How about this? I'll finish packing the cookies, and you go make sure you need everything you need. Walking up to her and giving her a kiss on the cheek. Okay, as she left the kitchen with a blush on her face. When she was gone, he took a cookie and ate it. Just like Kara-san's. As he finished eating the cookie, but he also sensed Minerva coming down as well, while he finished packing the cookies. Well, it seems you got my favorite, Minerva says. He knew that she was talking about the wine that he had set down. Not for you, remember it's a gift for Yakuza-san, packing the last of the cookies. Well, she will love this. Let's see. Bottled in the year 1988. The bottle is worth about 10 grand now. You did good, dear, for someone who has never drank wine before. Thanks. Anyways, you're packed, right? All in my pocket dimension. Invigold is also done with her own packing. Nice. Well, let me get my bag and you can pack up the wine. As he began to walk out of the kitchen, but Minerva blocked his path. You forgot something. Pulling his head to her, giving him a kiss on the lips, she initiated a little tongue as well. Much better. That should hold you for a while, Issei said, as he put his hands on her waist and shoving her down, or giving her another quick peck before leaving the kitchen. Heading back upstairs before entering his room, he saw Invigold leaving her former room with a small suitcase and backpack. Got everything, Invigold-chan? Issei said. Yes, I'm all packed. Good. Head downstairs, I'll be down in a few minutes. As he went into his room to pack his own things, but first he snuck into his closet and grabbed the rings, and that he picked up from yesterday, and packed them in his things. With the rings also packed, he checked around if he missed anything, and seeing that he did not, knowing that the gifts were packed as well, he headed downstairs to see Invigold holding the packed cookies and talking with Minerva about sightseeing in Kyoto. It was something that she was fond of ever since she joined Issei and Minerva. Alright, ladies. Looks like things are packed and ready to go, so it's time to go say hello to some friends and enjoy our vacation a little bit, seeing them both smile as they get a common area of a house and Issei prepared a magic circle. And then the three were transported to Kyoto to visit some old friends. Now we're in Kyoto. Upon arrival, people were a bit stunned as the pillar of flames arose from the ground in the front of the castle. Some yokai guards came to see what commotion was about, only to find Issei and his ladies there, having been used to Issei's visits. Lord Red Dragon Emperor, what brings you here? The yokai says. Don't call me Lord, we are just visiting. Is Yakuza-san around? She's in a meeting with some demons. I said, no worries, I should have known, as he felt which demons were there. Could you take the lady's bag? Of course. Lady Minerva, you have no bags. As she approached her, he had seen her with Issei before, so he knew her name. It's all in my pocket dimension, so I have no need for bags. Ah, I see, the yokai says. Miss, your bag. The second yokai said as he approached Imvigol. Thank you, Imvigol replied as she handed over the bag to him while keeping the cookies. Shall we escort you to your quarters, the yokai said as he took Issei's bag. No need for that. Then he suddenly tossed the wine to Minerva, who caught it with one hand, and turned around to effortlessly catch the two blurs that tried to jump him. You two will have to do better than that to get a jump on me, Kano-chan and Lilith-chan. Oni-sama, why didn't you tell us you were coming? Kano said. Lilith should have been told that you were coming, Oni-chan, Lilith said. Well, it wouldn't be a surprise if I told you now, would it? Lilith still have been told, pouting a bit. Maybe next time, he says as he nose her cheek to hers. It seems you still have my bandana. The bandana around Lilith's neck was his original one, but he gave it to her so we'd have something of him, or so she would not constantly visit him, while Lilith nodded her head in confirmation to his statement. Are you here to see Okasama? Kano says. Issei turned to the other girl on his arm. She had gotten a little taller in a year and a half that he was away from the biblical factions and gave her a smile. Well, we came to see all of you, Issei said. But you came last month and you said you would come every 2 months. We're on vacation, Princess Kano says. Oh, Kano replied. Princess Kano, will you be taking them to Yakuza-sama? The yokai says. Yes, I could take them to Okasama as she jumped down from Issei's arm while Lilith stayed put. Then we shall take your belongings to your quarters. I'm sure you know where they are, the yokai says. Yes, thank you, Issei replies as he put Lilith down. I thought you said Queen Yakuza was in a meeting. Shouldn't we wait? Nah, she won't mind. Neither would those that she is in a meeting. You forgot to give the girls cookies. Hearing the words cookies made Lilith's eyes light up, even though her face was emotionless. Right, sorry, Miguel says as she knelt down to Dakota and Lilith. Here you go, I hope you like them. She handed one of the containers to them, or rather to Lilith. Ahem, Issei said. Ah, thank you, Lilith said, since Issei told her thanking others while trying to teach her manners. Yes, thank you. Now come on, grabbing Issei's hand to take him to our mother with Immigold following behind. This just left Minerva and Lilith as the two guards also began to leave the store, Issei and Immigold's belonging. Letting out a sigh, Minerva knew she needed to make peace with Aloy, who was about to indulge on the cookies she was left with. Alright, come on, you and I both don't like each other, but we need to get along for Issei's sake, so if you let me carry you, you can eat your cookies in peace without the worry of running into something. Deal? Minerva says. Lilith looked at her and narrowed her eyes slightly, but then stopped and just stared. Minerva never offered to carry her, and she liked to be carried, especially by her Oni-chan. However, she didn't want to be left alone, and she knew that she wouldn't have to worry about eating her cookies if she was being carried. So after a few more seconds of emotionless stare, she nodded, which allowed Minerva to place her wine in her pocket dimension and then bend down to pick up a girl. Bringing this close to Minerva, Lilith caught something. Smells like Oni-chan, but nothing as began to eat her cookies, and Minerva followed after the trio that was heading towards Yakuza's location. I wonder who those two demons are. They must be friendly if Issei did not have any problems with going to meet the queen, as she had sensed there had been two demons, like Issei did, but she was unfamiliar with them, so she could only trust Issei's judgment. Another feeling that Minerva was also enjoying was holding Lilith was not that bad, especially when she is not glaring at her. She could not help but smile at the godlike loli, who had crumbs on her mouth, and so Minerva moved one of her hands and teleported a napkin to her hand. Here, as she wiped the crumbs off her Lilith's mouth, Lilith was a bit stunned. At first, she was a little mad that someone disturbed her cookie eating time, but also realized that she was eating messily again, another thing that Issei talked about to her, or rather scolded her about, since he had also done the same. Lilith could not understand why Minerva was being so courteous, but let it go for now. They had reached the other three, who were stalled by another guard that was blocking the entrance to a meeting room. Princess Kano, you cannot enter. Your mother is in a meeting, the yokai guard says, but I brought guests, and I am sure she would like to see them. Ask her. She was confident her mother would pause the meeting to see Issei, and was sure that she detected Issei the moment he arrived in Kyoto. Very well. Please wait here, the yokai guard said as he entered the room. Okasama is going to be so happy to see you, turning to the visitors. I'm sure she will. As will her guest, Issei said. Ah, I forgot you can trace magnetic signatures, Oni-sama. No wonder I couldn't sneak up on you, pouting at her failed attempt to ease her. Well, you are getting better at detecting me as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have tried to sneak up on me, little sis, rubbing her head. Well, I've been practicing a little more with honing my senses and also my fox dragon mode, pumping her fists, and excited about her progress. Really? That's awesome. Have you practiced some of the moves I taught you? I even practiced with the Wukong-san when he comes around, Kano says. That's good. He turned to Minerva, only to deadpan. She's asleep already. At least she didn't kill you, Issei said. Minerva looked a bit confused, until she looked down to see Lilith asleep with the half of a cookie hanging out of her mouth. We played all morning before you got here. By play, I guess you mean spar. If you can call it that. I didn't get a good hit in, pouting at losing to Lilith. You'll get her one day, rubbing her head. The door opened and the guard stepped out and spoke to them. She will see you now, the yokai says, opening the door to further let them in. You look like her mother, Issei says, snickering and smearing at Minerva, holding Lilith. Shut up, Minerva says, walking past with a huff and a glaze. Imigold simply smiled and giggled at her partner's interactions before following her inside. Lead the way, little sis, as Kano smiled and nodded, following the other two inside as he trailed behind them, and the guard closed the door behind them. Upon entering, they saw Yakuza upon her throne, along with two devils, who were very confused by the intrusion. However, their shock turned to smiles when they saw who entered. You know, when you replied back to me last about a mission, I didn't think you would be here, huh, Kiba? It's been a while since we last saw you, Issei-kun, as he got up from his seat to hug his best friend. Just because you look different doesn't mean I won't recognize you, Gasper, after he released Kiba from their hug. It's great to see you again, Issei-senpai, hugging his senpai. Despite staying in contact, he has not seen them, but only heard their voices. Kiba still looked roughly the same, but Gasper got a quite makeover and was taller. You must be popular with the ladies now, huh, Gasper? Looking at it like another prince. Like a pretty boy over here, matter of fact. You two look like brothers now. Smirking at him, while jabbing a thumb in Kiba's direction. Yeah, sure, blushing at senpai's compliment. He has amassed quite the following in school, Kiba said, smiling at his Kohai's growing popularity. I could tell, Issei replied, smiling while pointing at his nose, and I must say, congrats to both of you on taking your next step in your relationships. This comment caused both blondes to blush, as they both keyed on dragon senses are. They could not help but look in embarrassment while Issei laughed in their reactions. Oh, before I forget, this is Invigold. This is Invigold, gesturing to the purple-haired beauty on his right, admitting her last name, and this is Minerva Orland, to the woman holding Lilith. It's nice to meet you. I'm Kiba. Kiba, you two, interrupting him, Minerva said. We have heard much about you. You are my dear best friend, and you are Gasper Valadi. It's Kohai. It's an honor. As he smiled at the two, who were a bit dumbfounded. It's nice to meet you, Imigold said, giving a quick bow to both of them. No need to bow to us, Kiba said, chuckling nervously. Speaking of bowing, Issei realized that he did not address the queen, and also his employer. Yakuza-san, sorry to come in unannounced. It's a pleasure to come into your humble abode, giving a bow to the queen. If I may ask, where is Orphis? Issei says. Hello again, Issei. To answer your question, she went back to the dimensional gap. She may come back again, Yakuza said. That's good to hear. So why are you here, Issei? I did not call for your aid on this, Yakuza replied. Well, we were on break and decided to surprise you and the ladies and wanted to visit Ko afterwards, so I contacted Kiba yesterday about it. He told me about a mission, but he didn't say it was here. So what's this about? As he sat near Yakuza to be debriefed, the others took their own seats. Kiba and Gasper took their seats, and they had left from. Well, I did not want to trouble you in order to get others on my case that you were helping defend my territory, which is why we were sent or rather volunteered, Kiba said. I see, Issei replied. We were discussing a base that is outside of Kyoto. We believe that is another Chaos Brigade, one either filled with renegades or more than these creatures that we call necromorphs. I thought I got rid of most of them after the beach fiasco, Issei said. Beach fiasco? Gasper replied. Oh, it's how I met my princess, Gasper, giving a nod to Invigold to indicate who he was referring to. To summarize, he wanted to take this one, Minerva replied, referring to Lilith to the beach, where they heard Imigold singing. They seemed drawn to it, but singing caused the necromorphs to come out of the sea as well. Since the two of them were in a daze, they could not do anything. Imigold freaked out upon seeing the creatures as one took out. She caused a tidal wave to wash away the other two, but didn't kill them. Orphis, who had been watching from afar, took Lilith from the path of danger. Issei was washed as well, but came to his senses and burned the remaining two. I was afraid that they, gesturing to Issei and Minerva, were going to hurt me like those creatures, but Issei reassured me that there's not their intentions. Then Orphis appeared, and Issei knew her and told him that I should go with them or my powers would get abused by others, Imigold says. I assume she was referring to the factions, Kiba said, looking at Issei as spoke. Correct. Or the enemy. Imigold has a power over dragons, and as you know, the dragons are powerful allies, Issei said. We know well. It's good that you're in safe hands, Imigold's son, Kiba said. Thank you, Imogol replied. After that, I began searching for any creatures like them. Minerva and I theorized that it may be someone trying to create artificial beings as she is an artificial demon. This shocked Kiba and Gasper, as they could tell she was a demon, but they did not think she was an artificial one. How's it possible? Kiba said. You never told him, Minerva replied, asking Issei, who shook his head. It's not my story to tell. Only you once worked with Quillipoth, Issei said. So that's why Irina Senpai is wary of her, Gasper replied. Yeah, it still is, Issei said. Despite what the first wife thinks, I am on your side. I'm an artificial demon, but before I was a human, and like some humans, I seeked more power, so I joined Hexacraft, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Yes, we were a group of witches that worked with Quillipoth. They looked into developing themselves as most humans were, so they experimented with creating artificial supernatural beings, and I'm one of the few successful experiments. I had left during the war with the evil dragons. You said one of the few, so there could be others like you? Perhaps, Minerva said, shifting a little. Now who's going to... beginning to stir awake. Minerva said, May I? Imogol replied, seeing Lilith, eyes open. Minerva, looking at Imogol and seeing that she was gesturing to awake Lilith, who was glaring at her. Take her. Lilith didn't mind being passed off to Imogol, but she did not like that she let herself get comfortable with Minerva. Before she could protest, Imogol began to hum, and her eyes seemed to have a violet glow to them. Issei covered his ears as well to feel the effects. For the others, they saw Lilith lose her glare and get drowsy and cuddle into Imogol's chest. Wow, so that's what you meant by power over the dragons. It's impressive, Kiba said. After receiving a nod from Imogol, Issei uncovered his ears and looked at Kiba. What did you say? Issei said. Oh, I said her powers are impressive. I can see why Orpheus told you to take her with you. Since you boys would like to catch up, I think we can end this meeting for today, Yakuza said. Sorry, Yakuza-san, we can continue. Didn't mean to sidetrack. If you say so. Anyway, Kiba and Gasper, you were sent here to help investigate the base. I had some of my people set up a barrier around to prevent any of those necromorphs from leaving, if there are any inside, which some of my trackers believe there are, so be careful. May I join them? I mean, I have nothing better to do, Issei said. Is that alright with you ladies? Turning towards the ladies that came with Issei. He can handle himself. It's not the first time that he has raided a base on his own, Minerva replied. He doesn't need our permission. We are not his caretakers like the others before, Imogol says. Kiba and Gasper could tell that was a jab at Rias, so they knew that Issei had talked about his past. However, hearing how Issei handled bases on his own was a bit surprising, since small troops were sent to handle bases by the factions. Excuse me, you said that Issei-kun has handled bases on his own? You heard correct, raising an eyebrow at him. Issei-kun? Have you dealt with different types of necromorphs? They're usually humanoid, except the ones that came from Imogol when we met her, but nothing out of the ordinary. Why? Have you talked with Ravel about what has been going on with her clan? What's going on? Did something happen to Ravel? Turning serious about something happening to someone who he cared about. She's fine. It's just servants of the Phoenix clan have gone missing, and with them, some Phoenix teared, Gasper said. What does that have to do with the necromorphs? Remembering Kiva's previous question. A soldier came back traumatized from a raid on a base. He was screaming about a necromorph that just kept coming back. It killed everyone but him. However, he feared it would come for him and died from his injuries, denying medical aid. So, Kiba said, so that was what was a rumor about. We have not experienced such a thing, or at least none of my troops have, Yakuza said. Then it's best that I go. This is a new base, so this type of necromorph could be there, and with Kiba, it lets me use my swords again. You've been using Ascalon, Kiba replied. No, it's been a while. Minerva gave a thesis says it crafted from a dragon's tooth that could let me get up close and personal with the ugly bastards. That's quite dangerous, Senpai, Gasper said. It seems they forgot who you are built from, partner, Drake says, as the boosted gear activated. We know what he is made from flesh and blood of Great Red, but still. You are correct. However, this body is stronger than the previous one. Since Great Red had time to make this body, it is more perfected. According to Orpheus, his skin can be as hard as the scales of Great Red, so he has high defenses already, but he is not quite there yet. He is still harnessing his draconic magic, but he has other defense mechanisms as well, which causes anyone near him to be burned upon contact. So these necromorphs are no issue for him when he gets in their face. But the most important thing of all, you forget that my partner is still as reckless as ever, Drake says. Hey, Issei replied. You can be reckless, Kiba replied, agreeing with the chuckle. I'm still wondering what does Kiba-senpai have to do with you using your swords? Oh, so we could do some sparring together and get some rust off me, Issei said. And also the first wife has nagged about it to him, Minerva said. First wife? This was the second time that Minerva has mentioned this so-called first wife. She means Irina. Since he stopped talking and looked at the Konono, who stood near Yakuza's ears. Young lady? Konono pouted because she knew it was something that she wasn't allowed to hear until she was older. She still listened to her now big brother and did what she was told. It was for her own good and knew not to disobey him either. As I was saying, after knowing that Konoha's ears were covered, Irina was also marked by me, of course, differently. While I had with these two, hence they are marked. I didn't do it with Irina. I bit her on the neck, transferring some of my magic into her, imprinting on her. I transferred some of your magic? Huh? Guess that explains how she beat Genshiro. I heard about that. She never told me how she did. It's a funny story that I am sure she would love to tell you in person, but don't be surprised if Sanji is mad at you the next time you see him. He has a reason to be mad, since he was the first among us to get laid. Issei said, what do you mean? I mean, you guys were helping me pack. He had some mixed sense, so he definitely got some action during the night of the party. I know he and Sona left early to go send your transcripts that night, Kiba said. And I guess they banged in the student council office after sending it to me. Surprised I didn't rub it in my face. Considering what you were going through, I don't think that would have been a good time to brag, Kiba said. I guess you're right. Wait, can I uncover my ears? Issei forgot that he now listens compared to Lilith, who can be stummered. With a nod of his head, Konoha uncovered her ears and looked to her mother. What were you talking about? You're not old enough yet, my dear. Now... There are no problems, Issei. You may join them. With that done, this meeting is adjourned. I think I have myself a drink and a nice soak in the hot springs. Ah, well. Might as join. Better yet, Issei provided you a gift, bringing the wine from her personal dimension, handing it over to Yakuza. Minerva did. I thought you did not drink, Issei-kun. I don't. I just know my parents like the particular brand, and so does Minerva when she was able to drink, so I figured you would as well. Well, thank you. Since you will be hanging with the boys, come, ladies, let us enjoy ourselves tonight, as she walked away, Konoha following behind her. It was nice to meet you, Minerva said. Kiba, Gasper, I think I will join Yakuza in the hot springs and take care. As she stood up from her seat, bent down and gave Issei a kiss before walking away. You go with them too, Imigold. I need some... Keep her in check, pointing to Lilith, and let her know that I'll see her for dinner bedtime. So I don't want her to think that I don't want to hang out with her, okay? I can do that, Imigo said, smiling as she adored Lilith when she wasn't pouty. Thanks, Issei said, giving Imigo a kiss on the cheek as she stood up and left the meeting room, and when she was gone, his expression turned serious. I take it you want to talk about us something, Kiba said. Yes, but let's head to the male hot springs. It'll help ease tension. As the three stood up from their seats to head to designated hot springs, Issei knew that the ladies would be in for that was in the one palace, so he guided the two bonds to the public district. Kiba and Gasper followed him. They remained quiet until Issei spoke. So tell me, you guys enjoyed the gifts I sent you? Issei replied. Oh yes, thank you for the gaming consoles, Gasper said. Yes, I have been teaching Tsubaki how to play, Kiba said. So that's why you suck so bad in the last game we played, huh? Issei replied. Hey, she's learning, Kiba said. Dude, Sona was playing for Sanji as she played better than him. So you maybe just not a good teacher, Issei said. Didn't I help you with how to use a sword, Kiba replied. Well, I wouldn't be so rusty then. Now would I? Issei said. Not my fault that you put down your sword and get your angel wife nagging at you, Kiba said. Legally, she's not my wife. Not yet. You got them, didn't you? As his eyes widened, understanding what Issei was implying. It was something that they talked about before. Got what exactly, Kiba said. Issei-senpai bought engagement rings, thus making Kiba's wise-eyed. Is it also why you were okay with coming to Ko? Kiba said. I wanted to propose on the holidays to the three of them, those being Minerva, Irina, and Ross Visa, and then surprise Imigold and Ravel on their graduations. Why not just do all of them? Why make the others wait? Kiba said. I guess you're right. Only problems is the girls won't be there. You would have to go to the underworld, Kiba said. Really? Now... Huh, that would be quite a shock if I did go there, Issei said. You're not banished, and you wouldn't have to go to Asgard, since Rosvice's grandmother will be in Agarus instead, Kiba said. Yeah, some Nordic gods were not happy with what Odin said about you, especially Thor, Gasper said. They, along with the Olympian gods, have something to offer you as a reward for the war. The Nordics offered it to the Olympians as a peace offering to not leave the alliance when they threatened to. The Olympians took it because apparently it originated from their Nordics had something that was from Olympus, Issei said. Uh-huh, Gasper replied. Interesting. Well, I have something that is Norse mythology. Really? What is it? Well, it's my other familiar, or at least one of them. Your familiar? You broke into the familiar forest? Yeah. I wanted to see Invigold to have one. She is a demon, after all. I noticed that. Is she a stray from artificial like Minerva? Neither. She's half demon. So like Volley, Kiba said? Yeah. Something like that. You won't believe what her familiar is. But that is for another time. We're here. As he stopped in front of the spring spot, come on. Those familiars is not what I wanted to talk about. Well, Zenobia Senpai has a familiar too. Casper says, funny you mention her, because she is who I wanted to talk about, or rather her and Kiba, as she entered the hot springs to talk to the receptionist. Kiba and Gasper looked at each other in confusion, but also some shock and worry before following him. Come on, let's go. Handling some robes, and handing them the robes, towels, and walking into the locker rooms to change. The tension was felt in the meeting room and had returned, heading to the locker room to change as well. The three of them changed. Of course, Issei did also tease Gasper for this. You're uncomfortable entering a male's bath, huh, Gasper? Smirking at him. Last time I tried to get you into one, you whined about it and covered yourself like a girl. Well, things change, and Valerie kind of coded it out of me, Gasper said. Good thing. She heeded my advice. Your confidence has grown. I'm proud of you, Gasper. As he finished changing, leaving his clothes in the locker, only wearing a towel showing off his fit body. I thought you said your defenses were high, Kiba said, noticing a fist-like scar that formed a bit of an X on Issei's lower abdomen. They are this, pointing at the scar, is a courtesy of Minerva. One of the first times I used my body in a real fight, not a training stimulation. She really did that, Casper said. Well, I thought she was the enemy, and remembered she was a part of an organization that worked with Quillipoth. Plus, she knows Dragon Slayer magic. She's extremely proficient in hand-to-hand combat, and she also trains Invigold on it. So they said, huh? Sorry to bring up bad memories. But they remind me of Rias and Azia, Kiba said. Ha! My parents thought the same, but Minerva and Invigold go deeper than those two ever will. Plus, Minerva actually trains Invigold unlike Gremory. Think about it. She never trained a single one of us, nor did she help any of us. She only reincarnated herself to save herself and a dream. Funny that you mentioned that dream, and you were right. It was Sir Zexus-sama's knight that trained me, and you helped me overcome my revenge. You also helped me grow and try to harness my power of the sacred gear, Gasper said. Exactly. All she did was reincarnate us, but she never helped us. Well, actually, she helped me grow from her betrayal, Issei said. We'll talk about it more in the hot springs, seeing how they all have finished changing and headed to the springs to relax. Taking some time to enjoy the water, the boys stayed silent for the next few minutes until Issei decided to ask the question that has been on his mind. Kiba, are you still part of the Gremory Barrage? Issei asked. Huh? Oh, yes, I still am, Kiba said. So it was Zenobia that got replaced. Issei replied with a frown. How'd you figure that? I talked with Seek-chan yesterday, and she told me that Gremory had a new night piece. I thought you might have left because you told me that you became a high-class devil. Honestly, I thought those girls would stick together with their boyfriends. It was a bit of a surprise to me that Zenobia was the one they let go. Want to say what happened? I thought you didn't want to hear anything about them, Kiba said. Not really, but I am quite proud of Zenobia. I was informed of how good of a student council president she was and how she transitioned power over to Raveljan, despite what she said that night. I am happy she took care of her responsibilities, seriously, as I am aware of how your mistress let go of Rostron so easily. You mean Rosvica? Yeah, she wasn't paying much attention when Rosvica asked for a trade. Her negligence really cost her a powerful piece, Gasper said. So what happened? It was in a raiding game. She took a hit from behind while protecting Azia. Doesn't she have Fafnir to help her? Honestly, we've been on a losing streak, primarily because Ria-senpai underestimates our opponents and tends to heed Devlin's advice. It also is because whenever Azia summons Fafnir, he tends to eliminate both her and whatever opponent she's facing. So while he does help her, he also goes against her. I believe it has something to do with you. Probably. Fafnir was also perverted, asking for her panties. I guess he believes that she will replace him like he did with me, Issei said. Actually, It's what he told her one time when she was getting mad at him for constantly eliminating her in the process, and not just an enemy Rias. Influence and whining, it changed her. It's kind of why it sucked of what happened to Zenobia. You might say it was karma for what she said that night, but I think the feeling of being alone was worse. So what happened? Issei said. As I said, she took a hit from behind, but it was a betrayal. You see, Azia was healing me and her boyfriend, and Zenobia were protecting us. He saw an attack coming our way and used Zenobia as a shield to save his own skin, and then mocked her for being weak and slashed at her back, eliminating her from the game. What did the nun do about that? Issei said nothing. I was able to move away from her and told her that I would check on the two, so I saw it happen, then let go to get Azia. While I faced that guy that attacked us, and he told me that he wasn't even aiming for Zenobia, Kiba said. Didn't Zenovia's boyfriend have something to say about that? Issei said, Zenobia Senpai hasn't had a boyfriend since that night at the party. Gasper said, so let me guess. The nun's boyfriend lied to her about Zenobia. Issei said, yeah. He told her how Zenobia used him as a shield, so he had to defend himself, which sent her Osama about. Of course, Rias, being the hypocrite, talked about how she could not stand betrayals like that and essentially left Zenobia wounded in the Citrus hospital. Gasper and I would go to see her. She's lucky enough to even walk. The slash that Lenar, huh? That's his name, Issei said. Yeah, that slash gave her and nearly crippled her. After that, Rosvisa Sensei visited her as well as Ravel-chan, huh? Did Irina visit her? No. Zenobia told me about how alone she has felt since that night. She tried to talk with Irina, but she has been ignored. Also, considering how her other boyfriends lied about her, she had no one. It's probably why she was so engrossed in her responsibilities as president. It was sad to see her go, because when she was released from the hospital, Rias already took the liberty of throwing her things out of the house, which, by the way, Devlin bought without knowing that it belonged to your family. So, that is where the extra money came from, huh? Issei said, remembering how his parents got a massive sum of money from the sale. Yeah. Sekigahara got a realtor under his family name, and Devlin wanted to surprise Ria, so Sekigahara had your former house up for sale, despite the girls' things still inside. They were amazed by the house he bought, but since they haven't been there in a while, they didn't know it was yours, until they went into their respective rooms and realized that it was your house. She went back to the underworld, sensing your pieces there, and discovered that you were no longer belong to the Gremry clan. Something with Latia Ashtaroth laughed at. Latia Ashtaroth, who's that? She's a Juka-sama's niece. Ah, going back to what happened with Zenobia. Did she have a place to go? Yeah, I got her stuff and had it in my apartment. She stayed with Tokusa-chan and I for a little bit, and then she stayed with Rosvisa Sensei after that. That explains why Rose-chan didn't call me as often. Guess she didn't want Zenobia to know that she had contact with me, but it's good that you guys helped her recover. We just did what you wanted us to do. Thanks to Rosvisa-chan's training, she and I improved our magic, Gasper said. That reminds me. Where were you during the raiding game, Gasper? Oh, I'm not a part of the Gremry Parage anymore. Gasper is my bishop. I didn't want Rias to abuse his power, Kiba says. That's good to hear. So what happened to Zenobia? Oh, she's Rosvisa Sensei's knight now, Kiba said. Rose-chan became high class? She hasn't told you yet, Gasper replied. No. Issei said, deadpanning at his kohai. Surprise? Smiling nervously. Well, she'll tell me on her time. At least Zenobia is under someone who will help her grow. Issei said, I'm guessing that has to do with what you said about Ria Senpai earlier in the locker room. Gasper said, yeah, think about it. If I had gotten training from Tanin earlier, I could have beaten Riser. Instead of doing all that crap handing out pamphlets, we literally stopped doing those things. When we were preparing for the first raiding game, that was like 2 weeks wasted. Also, if Rose-chan was recently made into a high class, when was Zenobia released? 9 months ago, Kiba said. So who was she with before Rose-chan took her? She became Lady Phoenix's knight. It helped her heal, thanks to Phoenix Tears, but it did leave a scar, Kiba said. I see. One last question. Wouldn't Azia have seen the footage of the raiding game to know that her boyfriend was lying? No, because he asked Devlin to either delete or alter the footage. I heard them talking about it when I was practicing with my shadow bats, Gasper said. Wouldn't Sir Zex have done something? Well, Sir Zex and Rias had a bit of a falling out, Kiba said. It's kind of expected when you have your sister calling your wife a whore, Gasper replied. Rias called Nissan a whore, glaring at the two. It's because she was sneaking off to contact you, I believe, Kiba said. Oh, so a misunderstanding then, but I guess it explains why I haven't gotten much contact from Nissan, Issei says. Pretty much. He replied, huh? I'm still amazed that no one has come after me. If Nissan told Trihexa about me, Issei said. They did send Volley after you, Gasper said. I know. Issei replied, you know? Yeah, he told me when he found me, which was easy because of Lilith, who was constantly keep visiting me that I had sent her away. It's another reason why I come to Kyoto, other than working for Yakusan to handle the necromorphs. Huh? He hasn't said anything. And I know Sir Zex-sama never sent out an order after his fallout with Rias, something that made Devlin mad, Kiba said. Why is that? Issei replied. He thinks you're a coward for running away, that you should have stayed to help Rias achieve her dream, and if you wanted to go, you should have left the Red Dragon in more capable hands. And whose capable hands should I be in? His own? I left my partner on my own accord. And besides, he would lose. My partner doesn't need my power to beat someone like him, Drake says, as the green jewel glowed on Issei's left hand. So, if he wants to try and take my partner, he better be prepared to face the repercussions of his actions, Issei said. Indeed, Drake says. Well, at least my suspicions have been confirmed. Come on, the ladies are probably having dinner, and now Lilith knows I'm here. She'll be restless if I'm not here. Ha, Issei says. You know you kind of remind me of Sir Zex, Kiba said. Yeah, I better make sure I don't become a full-fledged ciscon, but I do understand why Rias was precious to him, like Lefay is precious to Arthur. I just have to be not sure to spoil her like Sir Zex did with Rias. Not just her, but Kono-chan and Milikis as well. They look at me as a big brother. He let out a sigh and relaxed a little more and looked up to the sky. You know how I wanted to become Harem King? What about it? Gasper said. As war ramped up, I began to see that a dream would not be obtainable unless there was peace. I want a world where I don't have to fight anymore, where you guys don't have to fight anymore, where Canute, Milikis, and Lilith will never have to fight. The only way for me to do that is to achieve peace by my own hands, so I will help you guys tomorrow, so you can get home to your ladies and live another day. Hopefully we can get some answers to those creating the necromorphs. Wow, well, we appreciate the help. And you did ask earlier, but we never got answered. Only Yakuza's son did, so I accept, Kiba says, as do I. Gasper said, great. It'll be like old times, but seriously, we gotta go. Standing up to head to the locker room. Right, Kiba and Gasper said. As they were changing, Kiba remembered something that he forgot to ask Issei. Issei, Kiba said, what is it, Kiba? Do you think you can ever trust Inovia again? Kiba replied, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I have no ill will towards her like Irina does. Apparently, I'll have to talk about her holding grudges. However, it may take some time. You guys seem to be trusting her. Maybe Ravel and Rose do as well. What she and the others, she did provide me with some clarity, and I got to see Rainier again. Issei said, but Issei-kun, Rainier's dead. I know, but my mind. Fall back onto her and what she told me that no one would follow the pervert like me. However, this Rainier was different. She was supporting me, rooting for me to prove people that she was a supportive girlfriend in my head. Whatever good I saw in her on our date was manifested in my mind. She was a figment of my imagination. She taught me things when I was able to open my heart again. She disappeared because she was no longer needed. Wow, I didn't know that, Kiba said. Yeah, well, I saw the good in Rainier. Maybe I'll see the good in Zenobia as well. As I said before, I am proud of what she became a good president to the school, but also to you guys. The Citri Parage was quite fond of her, so I'm glad that she has been doing well. Oh, I forgot. You still talk with Sanji, Gasper said. Not only him, but Rhea as well. It's kind of funny how you guys used to blame me for stealing the girls at the academy, but you're the one doing it as she'd have a crush on me, you know, Kiba said. Oh, I know, but maybe she found out she was looking for in me, smirking at Kiba. Maybe she has, and I know you will take good care of her, Kiba said, smiling genuinely at Issei. Just when I thought I got the last word, as they were heading back to the palace, since they had finished clearing up. Don't worry, Senpai, you'll get him next time, Gasper said. Damn right I will, Issei replied, as the three friends reunited and continued on to the dining hall to eat dinner. The ladies were already there, talking about something at dinner was served to them. Issei sat next to Lilith, giving her a rub on the head, while Minerva and Kiba sat next to each other, as Kiba wanted to know more about magic she used, which she didn't mind demonstrating about her combat skills. Gasper and Ingevold sat next to each other, talking about magic, and Ingevold was instructing Gasper on how he could use his shadows with more fluidity like water. Kano sat next to her mother, across from Issei, talking about her training. While Issei did discuss with Yakuza about hosting something at the palace, she knew what he was talking about and agreed, telling him that it was a big step for him. This did pique both Minerva and Nivigold's interest about what it was, while they carried on their own conversations. With dinner finished, He instructed Kano and Lilith to change in their pajamas before they went. Kanono wished her guests a good night, hugged her mother, and left with Lilith. Kiba and Gasper went to their own rooms and wished Issei and the ladies a good night and reminded Issei that they are leaving at 9 in the morning to head to the base, knowing that Lilith would likely be in Issei's room. Minerva and Invigold gave him a kiss goodnight and went to their own rooms, leaving Yakuza and Issei. You know you don't have to go on that mission, Yakuza said. Yeah, I do. But, you know of my dream, Yakuza-san, referring to what he told Kiba and Gasper. It's a difficult dream. Some may want to strike you where you are, and vulnerable pervert from you reaching it, Yakuza said. You may be right, Issei replied, as you walked to Yakuza's chambers. I must say, it would be an honor to host your wedding here. You are taking a big step in your relationship. I'm quite proud of you, Yakuza-san. Thank you. As they reach their chambers. Come in. I'd like to see them if you don't mind. Can it be after the mission? I also want Kiba and Gasper to see them as well, Issei said. Very well. As she entered her room, she turned back around. You know when you told my daughter that you could not be her father figure, I could see it breaking her heart. However, when you explain your reasons, I could see what you mean. But you have definitely matured. More than you give yourself credit for, Yakuza-san said. Thank you, Yakuza-san. Issei replied, Issei, please, we're alone. You can call me Ka-san. You may not be the father that Kanoa wanted, but you definitely are the brother that she needed. I even began to love you as my son. Although I did tease you about having your child, it doesn't feel right when you no longer have that perverted look anymore, Yakuza-san said. I did my best to change, Issei replied. I know you do, dear. We appreciate your efforts. Now get some rest. Your sisters may wonder where you are, and you'll need it for the mission tomorrow. Right. Good night, Yakuza-san, giving her a hug, which she reciprocated. That's my boy, letting him go and patting him on the cheek. Before she closed her door to the rest as she went to her own bedroom in the palace. Over the time since he had been visiting Kyoto, he began to look at Yakuza differently as she did. Since he was no longer perverted to tease, she developed a new admiration for the boy, and he has remained close to her family. From the time he spent with Kyoto, they felt like brother and sister at some point at one of their visits, and he called Kyoto her Ka-sama, which surprised the two kids as it felt natural, as whenever Kyoto and Lilith were playing, he could see Yakuza-san watching them as if they were all children. That motherly look just caused him to call her mother, something that he admitted to Miki, which she laughed about and threatened that he better not be replacing her. Of course, his mother and Yakuza became good friends, and he's seen the evaluating his future brides before something his father wished the best of luck. Goro did not intend to follow his father. Juzo's dream of having a harem told Issei that it was on him to achieve it, as Goro was very content with Miki. It made Issei almost want to have that one woman like how his parents were. Unfortunately, this brought a debate between his birth parents and mother figure who should be his optimal bride, which was evenly split. Guro suggested a woman that can carry herself like Ravel or Rosfaisa. Mickey thought it should be someone sweet and caring like Invigold or Irina. Yakuza said he needed something new to explore like Minerva or Rhea. When he asked Yakuza about Rhea, she noted how Rhea kept peeking glances at him and not Kiba. During the first trip to Kyoto, it did make Issei feel stupid about how dense he was back then. Of course, every now and then they would be switching their picks, so he snuck with the harem route as they were all lovely girls. Yakuza was right about him needing to explore something new. It's what helped him in his training and how he gained some new skills, utilizing his dragon's body. Heading to the back room, he found Kino and Lilith asleep on the bed already. He wondered how Lilith can sleep so much, although he knows it's not the case unless she's engaged in something of interest. Similar to Orpheus, changing to sleepwear, he scooted between them and he could tell that Kino was asleep, but Lilith was not. Lilith, Issei said, tapping her back as he called up to him. He got a groan of annoyance, but he got a reply. Yes, Oni-chan, you're a good girl today. You and Minerva were getting along. He felt their shift and huff an annoyance before slamming her head down on his chest. Hey, don't do that. Why the animosity towards her? And don't tell me that it's because she takes time away from me. Invigold does the same thing, so why? There were moments of silence, but he could hear her mumble something. What was that? You need to speak louder, Lil-chan. Lil-chan doesn't want to see Oni-chan get hurt again, Lilith said. Lilith, Issei said, when Oni-chan came to get a new body, Lilith felt that you were hurting. Oni-chan said it was because of those girls you were with, so Lilith thought that she was like them. Lilith feels it. You know a big brother is supposed to protect her little sister, not the other way around, Lilith-chan. Thank you for looking out for me. While Minerva acts unorthodox, she does care. I'm going to tell you right now, Lilith, I plan on marrying her, not just her, but Invigold as well. And after marriage comes baby. I'm going to need you to be the best auntie for those kids when the time comes, okay? Okay, Lilith said. You felt no shift. What about me, Onisama? What about you? I also need you to be the best auntie for those kids. I guess you're right, and you've improved your fake sleeping. I really thought you were passed out. He felt the shift again, but no response from her. So you will have to get along for my sake, please? Turning his attention back to Lilith will try. Thank you, and if she does something that is meant to hurt me like some of those girls, you can end her existence. He had a feeling that made Lilith smile and stuck up closer. Okay, her tone sounded a little bit happy, mostly like the prospect of taking out Minerva. But only on my signal you can do so as you please, understand? Yes, Oni-chan. Good, now get some sleep. I got an early day tomorrow and try to get along with her. I'll make sure she does the same. You'll find that you two are more alike than you know. For now, good night, you two. They both said good night, Onisama. He settled him with a smile, and he knew about both Lilith and Minerva had possessiveness about him getting hurt. More so emotionally rather than physically. He was happy that both of them cared about him, but he did not understand Lilith's worry. Minerva was also once an enemy, but Lilith was as well. She used to be Ravim's bodyguard until she changed sides like Minerva did as well. Either way, they were on his side, so he hoped they would get along. While he was away, he was excited about going on a mission with Kiba and Gasper, and his dragon blood coursing through his veins. He could not wait to burn and pulverize more necromorphs as he scrambled to slumber, holding his little sisters by his hand, wishing them sweet dreams. Of course, this wish would be fulfilled by his dragon's father, Great Red. And that is the end of Chapter 8. And that is where we're going to be stopped right now. And before you leave, make sure to hit the like button. That would be highly appreciated. And if you want to know when I exactly upload or my upload schedule, click the blue button right next to the subscribe button and become one of the boys today. A channel member, a balance breaker, a Juggernaut Drive member, a limit breaker. It'd be absolutely amazing. I really do thank you all for the support. I'm not going to sit there and bother you with all the other things. Spartanic has been doing well because of the shorts, and our videos are still doing kind of well, but obviously the shorts are really popping off, so I'm getting like tons of subs and tons of views, and it's always nice. So with that being said, the next series might possibly be What If Goku Was in High School DxD, because I've gained a lot of Dragon Ball support as well. But I obviously will keep doing a What If Issei's as well because I'm a huge fan. So without any further intrusion, ladies and gentlemen, Spartanic Arts DxD out.